families throughout his career. Part of his driving force and his passion is to learn and grow spiritually, physically, and mentally. Service is his purpose, and he is proud to be an ambassador of Prosperity Homes, an organization created with the intention of helping women and children by building homes for those who need it most. Leo has set a tone of philanthropy in the real estate industry since he joined the profession nearly 14 years ago. He believes that culture of giving attracts colleagues and associations who truly care about making a positive impact in the world. Throughout the years, Leo has made a difference in thousands of people's lives. He has coached and mentored hundreds of professionals, and his favorite quote is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Mr. Leo Robles.
Dude, thank you so much. I really love the introduction. It's an honor to be here today. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm honored to be here with you, Ricardo, with you, Hal. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And before I start off, I'm gonna go ahead and read to you guys his bio, because I know Hal's story, but he's done a lot of different things. So let me just go ahead and get into it here. So after surviving multiple death experiences and impacting millions of lives through his books, Hal Elrod is now on a mission to elevate the consciousness of humanity one person at a time. As the author of the international best-selling book, The Miracle Morning, which has been translated into 37 languages and sold over 2 million copies, and his newest book, The Miracle Equation, is doing exactly that. Hal is also a Hall of Fame business achiever, ultra marathon runner, 7-figure entrepreneur, and most importantly, a grateful husband and father. He has dedicated his life to helping other people overcome their challenges and become who they need to be in order to create the life they truly want and deserve. Welcome, Mr. Hal Elrod. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, man.
Leo and Ricardo, thank you. You're welcome, and thank you. This is really, I appreciate this, and let's make some magic happen today.
Let's make some magic happen, man. So, I mean, for those, everyone that's tuning in, obviously, I mean, I've read your book. Ricardo has read your book. You know, I think a lot of millions of people read your book, but I definitely think it's really awesome for you to just share your story, man. Just start off, tell people, you know, your what you've been through, because I think that you have one of the most inspiring stories I've ever heard. And for you to be here, you know, sharing your story, man, it just, you know, it takes an immense amount of courage. So I acknowledge you for that. But if you could just share your story, bro, get people related to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think I'll start a little earlier than I normally do. Normally I start with my car accident, and I want to back up just a little bit. I grew up in a really with great parents who loved me, and I'm very blessed and very fortunate for that. That, you know, I actually was texting my dad last night and said, my dad commented on one of my posts. He said, "Hal, I'm so proud of you." And I said, "Dad, I am who I am because of you and Mom, you know, no doubt about it." And but I also grew up very average. So that's what I mean by that is I was never an achiever. Like, we all know those people that, you know, they got straight A's and they were like captain of the football team, or, you know what I mean? Or tennis team. And like, I wasn't that kid. Like, I got C's at best. I was always in trouble. I was a goof off class clown. My parents were getting called all the time. Didn't really achieve anything at a high level. And when I was 19 years old, I started a career in sales. And I'm sure most realtors are familiar with Cutco Cutlery, but I got hired at Cutco, and I was like, I'll try this out. Like, I'm not a salesperson, but I'll give it a shot. And that's where I found my groove, if you will. And I share this part of the story because for anyone that's watching this, this is this part is that your past does not equal your future. Like, my whole life, I had no discipline. I wasn't an achiever, as I said. And on my second day of training in sales, I decided, I go, you know what? I want to fulfill my potential. I want to stop settling for mediocrity in my life. I want to finally do something remarkable, something worthwhile. I want to live to my full potential. And so I went out the next 10 days and I broke this 50-year-old company record where I sold more Cutco in those 10 days than almost anyone in the 50-year history of the company. And that was a really, to me, it showed that, wow, who I've been doesn't determine who I get to become. And I think that too often we live in that rear view mirror where we go, well, you know, this is who I've always been, so this is who I am. And I think that we have to start living not from our past, but we have to live from our future. We have to create a vision for what do you want? Because if you want it, you can create it. So what do you want, and what are you committed to doing to achieve what it is that you want, right? Create that vision and then live every day, not from your rear view, not seeing who you were in your past, but who you can become, right? Who you can become and live into that every single day. And it might feel awkward at first. It might feel like it might feel inauthentic. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that girl. I'm not motivated. I'm not disciplined. I'm not successful. I don't make six figures, right? But live into it and it'll feel more and more and more comfortable. And so I just wanted to share that.
What was that process right there? Because you went through like what was that process? Why did that shift for you, right? Because you said you went from like, hey, I want to do this, right?
Yeah.
What was that process? Like, what happened in that time?
I'm glad you asked, because I would have just glossed over it. So the first thing is, number one, I got really excited about a vision for the future, right? So a goal. And my goal was that we learned about the record. It was called the Fast Start record. And I thought, man, if this other girl could set this record at $12,000 in sales of kitchen knives for 10 days, why not me? I think that's the question we got to ask. Why not me? So it starts with just simply a goal, a dream, a vision, like something clear that you're excited about. And then the second piece of it for me was to get mentorship. And with that mentorship came accountability. So I went to my manager on the second day of training and I said, hey, I want to break the all-time record. And I thought he was going to be like jumping for joy. Oh my gosh, yeah, this is awesome. And he basically knew that I was all talk at that point, because he told me, he goes, Hal, he said, every week in training, someone tells me they want to break the record. Do you know how many people have done it since I've been a manager? He said, zero. He said, you have to be willing to work and be committed at a level you've never been committed before. And if you're willing to commit and you're willing to be accountable and you're willing to follow my lead and do what I say, because I can tell you what to do. I can show you the way, but I'm not with you at home. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not making those calls. He said, but if you're willing to commit at a level you've never been committed before, I believe you can break the record, and I will guide you and I will lead you. And I was like, I was scared. I was like, shoot, I think I bit off more than I could chew, but I was embarrassed. I'm like, okay, yes, I'll do it. But that was it. It was once I got clear on this goal, this vision, then I found someone that had more knowledge than me, and believed in me more than I believed in myself. And maybe most importantly, would hold me accountable. I checked in with him a minimum of twice a day. Every morning, first thing I called him, I said, hey, I'm about to get on the phone. Here's how many calls. I'm giving you my word I will make no matter what. There's no other option. And then I would usually call him throughout the day after my appointments. I don't know how I went. But then at the end of the day, I always called him and said, hey, I'm getting on the phone again. I'm making my calls. And I did that every day for those 10 days. And if it wasn't for that goal of breaking the record that I was committed to, if it wasn't for me giving my word to my mentor and having someone to guide me, encourage me, and hold me accountable, dude, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. That's gold right there. That's super gold. I could totally relate what you're saying, because that little transition period, man, it's everything. And those 10 days, you talk about mentorship and people making an impact in your life. One person that just held you accountable. Look where you're at right now.
Well, thank you for that. And it's true that if you think about it, every successful person on the planet did so with accountability. Like the world, like a Michael Jordan will tell you, like Phil Jackson is one of the prime reasons, and his coaches before Phil, why he is who he is and was the player he was, right? If it wasn't for the accountability, players wouldn't show up early to practice, right? They would just, they'd go, I'm good enough. I'm good enough as I am. And they would just let that be enough. And same thing with CEOs. World-class CEOs, they have accountability in the form of stockholders, shareholders, right? In the form of an executive staff, an assistant. Most of them have executive coaches, right? And if it wasn't for the accountability of people holding their feet to the fire, holding them to what they said they were going to do, we all slack off, right? We all slack off. So that accountability is crucial. Yeah. So fast forward a year and a half into my Cutco career, I gave a speech at a conference, was driving home that night in my brand new Ford Mustang. I just bought my first, I'm 20 years old at that point. I bought my dream car, Ford Mustang. And I got hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. And this drunk driver was in a full-size Chevy truck, much larger than my little Ford Mustang, hit me head on at 70 miles an hour, and the worst was yet to come. I spun off the drunk driver. My car spun around, and the driver's side door was hit by the car behind me at 70 miles an hour. And instantaneously, I broke 11 bones on the left side of my body. My eye socket was crushed. My ear was almost completely severed. My arm was broken in half. My elbow was shattered. My nerve was severed. My pelvis was broken in 3 places. My femur broke in half. I punctured my lung. I ruptured my spleen, and I began losing a lot of blood. And that night I bled to death when they pulled me out of the car, they being the fire department, an hour later, using the jaws of life to cut me out. I had lost so much blood that my heart stopped beating, and it took them 6 minutes I had no heartbeat, wasn't breathing, and they were able to revive me on a helicopter, flying me to the hospital. And I spent 6 days in a coma. I flatlined twice more. They revived me once, 2 more times. And I woke up to face the most unimaginable reality that I was in this car accident. I'm 20 years old. I'm being told I'm never going to walk again. I have permanent brain damage, which my wife will vouch for. But I literally, my memory is horrible. And at that point I would remember, I'd forget every few minutes and have to be retold what I had gone through. And being told I would never walk again and being told I had permanent brain damage, there's a parallel here for all of us. Life happens, right? And most of what happens, it happens to us. It's out of our control. Well, what we control is how we think, how we interpret the events of our lives, the meaning we give, and most importantly, how we respond, what we do, right? Like COVID-19, it's out of our control, right? But you have to decide what you're going to do, right? The economy, none of us directly control that, but we respond to how we're going to, in 2008 is a great example. Most realtors in 2008, when the economy crashed, housing market crashed, they bailed. They're like, oh, it was fun when it was easy. I was all in when I had more houses selling than I could deal with. Right. But the realtors that were committed, kind of like, my manager, my mentor taught me in the beginning, like, if you're committed, there's always a way. And those realtors that were committed, right, they grabbed the market share while the majority pieced out, and those realtors stayed strong. They built strong relationships. They developed repeat business from their clients, right? And they're still here today, yep. And there's a new wave of realtors that have come in when the market was hot, and when the market crashes, right, you decide. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. And so for me, I decided there was only one of 2 options, or there were 2 options essentially. Number one, the doctors were right and I might never walk again. And the option number 2 is maybe I will walk again. I don't know. I really don't know. But what I decided to do, and this is one of the most important lessons I drew from the experience, is I'm going to accept the worst case scenario. I'm going to accept what I cannot change so that I make peace with it. I'm not going to wish this didn't happen to me, right? Because it did. Mm-hmm. And one of the greatest lessons that I learned was that every negative emotion that we've ever felt, all of us, mm-hmm. every negative emotion that we've ever felt, that we're feeling now, that we could ever feel in the future, is self-created by our resistance to our reality. Yep. So in other words, when something quote unquote bad happens, right, that you didn't want to happen, if you resist it, and in simple terms, that just simply means wishing it didn't happen, wanting things to be different that can't be different, right? You can't go back in time and change it. But every negative emotion that we experience is our resistance to the things that we can't change. And the best example of that, or the best proof of that, you could say, is the same thing can happen to 2 different people. Could be a divorce, could be the economic crash, could be an injury or an illness. And one person says, I can't believe this happened. I wish this didn't happen. This is the worst thing I could ever imagine. I'm so upset. They resist it with every fiber of their being. And it becomes this horrific experience for that person. And they mistakenly think they feel that way because of the thing that happened to them. Yep. But then this other person that had the exact same circumstance, the exact same thing happened, they go, you know what? This sucks, but I can't change it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to grow. I'm going to develop skills and characteristics that I didn't have at this point. I'm going to come out on the other side a better version of myself. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, that tragedy that befell both people, the person number one, it destroys that person. And person number two, it becomes the greatest thing that ever happened to them. Like the car accident for me was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because it enabled me to learn and grow and become better than I'd ever been before, and then created my life's work so that I could help other people do the same. And it's true for all of us, right? Whatever's happened in your life, you have a choice. Either you can resist it and create pain for yourself and wish it didn't happen, be a victim, if you will, or you can take a deep breath and say 3 words. Or actually, I'll share a couple thoughts. Number one is I call it the 5-minute rule. I learned this in my Cutco sales training.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it was that whenever something negative happens, something painful, set your timer for 5 minutes on your phone and you get 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, cry, like feel sorry for yourself, whatever, like feel it. Don't deny it, right? But go, oh, this sucks. I'm so upset. But here's the problem. People turn those 5 minutes into 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 decades. Yeah. A lot of us are still suffering over things from our childhood because we're resisting it. That shouldn't have happened. I didn't deserve that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we think we're suffering because of the problem is we always think we're suffering because of the event. We always point at something. Of course I'm upset. Look at what happened. Yeah. Of course I'm sad. Look at what I lost. Of course I'm angry. Didn't you see what he did to me or what she did to me? And we always point at, we think we're feeling the emotional pain because of someone or something else, but it's never the thing. It's always our resistance to the thing that creates the pain. And so for me, I decided 2 options. Number one, if I never walk again, I'll be the happiest person that you've ever seen in a wheelchair. That's what I told my dad. That's what I told the doctors. The doctors thought I was delusional. They thought I was in denial. But I wasn't. I just said, I go, well, if I'm in a wheelchair, why would I let that ruin my life? Like if I never walk again, I can let that define my emotional quality of life, or I can go, you know what? I'm going to be genuinely happy and grateful even in the midst of my adversity. And the second option was I will walk again. And I decided I'm going to accept the worst case scenario. So I'm at peace with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to focus all of my energy into what I want, into that vision, into that goal. And I visualized walking every day. I prayed about it every day. I meditated on it. Like it's all about. And I generated feelings of excitement and hope and faith and optimism, right? I wasn't now the fact that I was injured, it was all still happening, but I couldn't change it. So I decided, and here's what I would share with you to consider. We can choose to be the happiest and the most grateful we've ever been in the midst of the most difficult circumstances of our lives. And, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that 3 weeks after the crash, after I was found dead, after the doctor said I was delusional because I kept talking about that I was going to walk again, the doctors came in with routine x-rays and they said, Hal, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing so quickly. You're actually ready to take your first step today in therapy.
Wow.
And even for me, I was thinking that was like a year away, you know? And then that day I took my first step. 4 weeks later, I left the hospital. I got back to work, you know, and I finished that year as the number 6 rep out of 50,000 sales reps in Cutco. And half the year I didn't have a car. I couldn't drive. Like I just found a way. I caught rides. I just did whatever. And for anybody watching, like I'm not special. I'm you. I'm a human being. And if, you know, and you, there's nothing, including being happy, including being successful. There's nothing that you can't do. As long as you're committed, there's always a way.
You stayed, and what I got is like you stayed open to a possibility, bro. Like when that happened, right? Because you married the moment. You're like, all right, cool. This is the card that I was dealt with in this moment, and there's no resistance. So you're not wasting your energy, your life force energy into what you can't change. But then you use, you know, your life force energy to actually visualize what you want to step into, and which is the key to everything. And that's why you create, you stayed in that possibility state. So I love what you said, man. And I've been through situations in my life the same exact way. And, you know, I was, you know, I started in 2008, just like what you're talking about. And I was 18 years old and I made money, lost everything right away. I made like $100,000. I lost everything. And I wish I had your 5-minute rule, but it took me an entire year. I had a massive pity party for a whole year. And I didn't actually have the courage to step back into it until 2009. And then that's when I finally, you know, started to say, you know what, enough is enough. I found a mentor. All the things you're saying, bro, I found somebody to be accountable. So it's 100%, you know, anybody that's listening to this right now, especially if they're going through something, this is going to be a massive impact, because what you just said right there is magic. It literally is magic. So thank you for sharing that, man. And, you know, you would think that that would be like the end of it, right? Right? I'm like, oh my God, you went through this whole challenge and now you created this amazing lifestyle and something else just happened, right? So share with our viewers and listeners out there, because you're also, you know, you're going through something else. So
yeah,
share with that. That'll be amazing, brother.
Yeah. One near-death experience. Yeah. You think that's enough. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a very rare and very aggressive form of cancer called acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I woke up one night, like struggling to breathe, and went into urgent care the next day, and they misdiagnosed with pneumonia. And then it kept getting worse. I went home, took antibiotics, nothing. I couldn't breathe. Went in for a second opinion into the hospital, and they found out that my lung was collapsed. They didn't know why, and they had to drain 2 liters of fluid. And then a day and a half later, I went back in and had to do it again and do it again and do it again for 11 days in a row, while I kept seeing different doctors. And they found that I had this cancer, and it was I was given a 10 to 30% chance of surviving. So obviously it's about as grim of odds as you can have. And, you know, and for me, I was like that, you know, I'm a healthy person. I eat a plant-based organic diet with small amounts of grass-fed meat and, or, you know, like organic. I mean, I was really healthy. So I'm like, well, how is this possible? And so I underwent the most aggressive chemotherapy, I believe, that possibly for any cancer. I mean, I would do 5 days of chemo consecutively, nonstop, 5 different drugs. And so I ended up doing a total of 700 plus hours of chemotherapy over 8 months. And I almost died. I was in the ER multiple times. It was the hardest time in my life, but I will tell you this, the day that I was diagnosed with cancer and I called my wife and I had to tell her, she was out of town with the kids. And I had to, I told her the odds. I told her all of it, and she was in tears. And I said, sweetheart, 2 things. Number 1, I have unwavering faith that I will beat this cancer, just like I walked again, just like I overcame all the things. And number 2, I said, I promise you, the same decision I made when I was in my car accident, I will be the happiest and the most grateful I have ever been while I'm going through what I would imagine is the most difficult time in my life. And I was, you know, it broke my heart that now it was her life too. And now it was our kids' lives. Like that was the hardest part. I'm like, I can handle this, but my poor wife and my poor kids, you know? And I lived near the hospital 3 hours away from my kids for most of a year. And I would come back and forth occasionally. I was usually sick in bed. I couldn't play with them. And my daughter was 7, my son was 4. So it's like, you know, I missed a lot of a year of their life, which was one of the hardest parts about the whole thing. But once again, the doctors thought I was a little delusional. I was so, you know, optimistic and positive. And this is what I said, by the way, you know, most people, at least from what I've read and from groups I've been in, when they receive a diagnosis, like that for them is like fact. Yeah. Like, okay, if I have a 10 to 30% chance of living, that means I have a 70 to 90% chance of dying. I'm going to die. And I really believe that our body, you know, there's a lot of science around the mind-body connection, but in layman's terms, we've got trillions of cells, and they do what we tell them to. So whatever you feel, if you feel fear of death, then your cells are like, oh, we're dying now? Okay, got it. But if you say, hey, I'm going to live no matter what, there's no other option, your cells are like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. If I say I'm going to walk no matter what, there's another option, our cells are like, oh, guess we better heal this leg then, right? And once again, the doctors, they couldn't believe how well I was handling the chemo, how quickly I was, getting better and in remission and all of those things. And That was 3 years ago. And I applied this thing called the miracle equation that I used when I was in sales. And it's 2 decisions that if you study the world's highest achievers, most successful people, you find that these are the 2 decisions they live by. One is unwavering faith, and the other is extraordinary effort, meaning they maintain faith in what they want, in the possibilities that exist, and they live that faith every day. Most of us live in fear. What if I fail? Oh, no, things aren't going as according to plan. Wait, I'm not on track for my goal. We just live in fear. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not as good as they are. Most of us have that negative internal dialogue, and that's our reality. And so what I learned early on is, in order to be highly successful and just maintain your sanity, you've got to replace fear with faith. That I have faith that I can do anything. I can overcome anything. I can achieve anything. And I'm committed to do whatever it takes. And that's the second decision. Extraordinary effort is simply, I'm committed to do whatever it takes to blank. To beat cancer, to achieve my goal, to earn this income, to be a great parent, whatever it is for you. And extraordinary effort doesn't mean that you work 60 hours a week. It means that you're consistent. Think about this. Any goal you have in your life, if you just do one thing every day that moves you in the direction of that goal, you really can't fail. The only variable is timing. When I wrote The Miracle Morning, my goal was to change 1 million lives one morning at a time. And which basically meant sell 1 million copies of The Miracle Morning, right? Now I had no platform. I didn't have an audience. I didn't know how to get on TV shows or anything, right? So it was just this goal where I felt a sense of responsibility to share this ritual, this Miracle Morning practice that had changed my life so dramatically. I felt like I owed it to the world. And I thought 1 million is a good place to start, right? There's 7 billion people. I got to start somewhere. So I set a goal to sell 1 million copies, change 1 million lives the first year. And I maintained unwavering faith. I put forth extraordinary effort. And let me share what that looks like. The unwavering faith was in writing every day. I had a mantra that said, I'm committed to selling 1 million copies of The Miracle Morning and changing 1 million lives in the year 2013. No matter what, there's no other option. And I read that quote every single day, and it became my reality. Wow. And I did that year, I did over 150 interviews on other people's podcasts. I did 52 of my own podcast episodes. I was on 13 television shows, national TV shows. I paid a bunch of money to get on these shows, right? I gave 36 speeches around the United States. I was active on social media every day. I did everything in my power to sell 1 million copies. And guess how many copies I sold? 13,000.
Wow.
So if you do the math, guys and gals, I was 987,000 copies short of my goal, or 98.7% failure rate, right?
Wow.
And but having applied this miracle equation, unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, I know from experience and I know from studying other people that the only variable is timing. Meaning sometimes we set a goal and the time frame's not realistic. It's not that the goal's not realistic, but the time frame's not. So was I discouraged? Sure. I was like, okay. I'm like, damn, I was so far off. I was a little bit like, I was scared. Like, I don't even know if it's possible. Maybe it's going to take me but I went, here's what I decided. My mission to change 1 million lives was so important to me. I was so committed for me, for my family, for the people that it would impact, that I decided, you know what? Maybe it takes me the rest of my life. Maybe 1 year, obviously 1 year wasn't realistic, but I'm committed to maintain unwavering faith and put forth extraordinary effort, those 2 decisions, every single day for the rest of my life, because I believe that much in my mission. And
one thing I would say, like, you wouldn't have done what you would have done either if you didn't have that massive million goal. You know what I mean? Like, you went on 150 interviews. I mean, you did all of these extraordinary things. So if you hadn't had that million goal, I think even if somebody would say, well, what if I do, the 10, like maybe I'll do 10,000 and still be extraordinary. I don't think you would have done everything you did if you had that small of enough a goal.
I'm glad you said that. I want to share one of what I think is one of the most important concepts that I shared in the book. And this isn't my own. This is from Jim Rohn, one of my mentors. And actually, he was my mentor's mentor. So I learned this from my mentor. He learned it from Jim Rohn. And here's how I put it in my terms. The purpose of a goal is not to hit the goal. Most of us think it is, and if we're not going to hit the goal, it's what stops us from setting big, scary goals, because we're like a million. I don't know how to do that. And so most of us won't even set it because we think it's this black and white thing where if I don't hit it, then I fail. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. The real purpose of a goal is not to hit the goal. It's to become the type of person that you need to be to achieve bigger and better goals. It's about developing the qualities, the characteristics, the habits, the skills, the mindset to achieve these goals. Because here's the thing, when I didn't achieve the goal at the end of the year, I still did 150 interviews. I developed levels of discipline and communication and all of these qualities that would enable me to try again the next year. And guess what? The next year I only sold 23 or 30,000 copies, I think. I fell short again. But I dusted myself off and I went, okay, let's try it again. I was committed until.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that once you get yourself to that level, what you're saying, then you're literally almost invisible to where, because if you're dependent on the outcome for your happiness, I think that's a big mistake for a lot of people. You know, they're dependent on getting to the million. And I think that for a lot of people, hey, you know what? I didn't get to the million. Let me quit. Let me just give up, right? And that's where you're detached also. But that also beautiful back to your unwavering faith, right? The timing is off, but you have unwavering faith that's going to happen.
Well, and it also, it goes back to what I learned with my car accident, which is the idea of holding two opposing ideas or outcomes simultaneously. I may never walk again. I'm at peace with that. I really want to walk again. I'm putting all my energy into that. So most of us, if we put so much energy into a goal, like I did for that million goal, and don't hit it, we feel discouraged. We feel like failures. We feel defeated. But it doesn't have to be that way. You know, if I would have never, so you can want something really bad and be fully committed to it, and at the same time simultaneously be at peace if it doesn't happen, or doesn't happen the way you wanted it to, or in the timing that you wanted it to. And so for me with the miracle equation, I kept applying it, and year 3, I didn't hit it. Year 4, I didn't hit it. Year 5, I didn't hit it. But year 6, we surpassed over 1 million copies sold for the Miracle Morning. And then within 3 years after that, 2 years later, we sold another 1 million copies. So think about, if I would have given up after year 1 because I didn't hit the goal, I would have never given myself the opportunity to make the impact that the Miracle Morning has made, right? And I've talked to so many authors that go, man, I only promoted hard for 3 months. And then I just chased the next squirrel. I went to the next project. You know what I mean? Like, my book didn't have the start I wanted, so I moved on. And this is true for all of us. Whatever you want in your life, if you can maintain those 2 decisions, unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, you don't make them once and forget it. You make them every day. And when you face fear, you swap it out with faith. When I was trying to beat cancer, I had the same mantra. I maintained unwavering faith that I will beat cancer and live to be 100 years old with my wife and our 2 kids. No matter what, there's no other option. And whenever I felt fear that I was going to die, which was probably at least once a day, especially when I was in the ER with my face swollen and, sick and 104-degree fever, which happened repeatedly, right? I was on death's doorway repeatedly. I would repeat that mantra. I'm committed to give it everything I have to live to be 100 years old with my wife and our kids. No matter what, there's no other option. And I would do everything in my power to make that happen. And then, in case that story didn't come to a conclusion, I'm cancer-free now for about a year. And I really believe so much in it was not just my awesome doctors, but it was my approach, that we have to take responsibility for every aspect of our lives and not ever leave it up to somebody else.
I think that's huge, man. And I think that you taking, like you're saying that, right? Taking responsibility, when you put yourself in the driver's seat, then you have power in your life, right? And when you allow the circumstances and situations to dictate everything, then you're basically in the passenger seat. So you pivoted to being on the driver's seat. And, life, man. I mean, if you're listening, anybody is listening to your life is literally a miracle. You know, it's every single thing it's miraculous what you've been through. And, you know, the thing you said about fear, going from fear to faith, you know, for someone that's going through something, that's a miracle too, I believe, right? That little thing, that little shift and the little pivot from fear to faith, that's a little tiny miracle, right?
Yeah.
Get people through whatever they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's subtle, but most important things are, right?
Yeah.
You know, most of life is perspective. You know, if you're having challenges in your relationship, your marriage, whatever, right? It's a shift in perspective can change everything. A shift in perspective, then shifting how you show up, that can change everything. You know, I had, when my wife and I, right before I got cancer, we were going through a tough time, and she went out of town, and, you know, she left, and we were upset at each other. And I realized, I decided I need to take full responsibility. My mission is to make her life amazing, regardless of how she treats me on any given day. And if she's having a bad day, instead of me mirroring that, I'm going to work harder to make her life amazing. And I went to this place of selflessness. I shifted my perspective and said, you know, what if I don't keep score? What if it's not, well, she didn't do this or I didn't do that? I go, what if it's just a pure outpouring of selfless love that I shower her with, and unconditional acceptance and forgiveness and all of that? Like, what if I, like, you know, the Care Bears, that show, like Care Bear Stare, like, what if I just project all the love, all the positivity, right? And so I wrote an affirmation that committed to that I read every morning during my miracle morning. And every morning I reminded myself of that perspective. And then I go, it's not about what comes back to me, at least not for now. This is all about what I give, period. And it's amazing. It transformed our marriage. You know, it transformed our marriage. It took a little while, but then she's like, why are you're different. Something's different, right? You know?
Yeah, but unconditional love, my friend, that you pivoted into that. And that's huge. That's very, very big. I mean, it'll transform your relationship and transform your life when you come from that state of mind. And I haven't had the privilege of reading your book, The Miracle Equation, man. I haven't. I've read The Miracle Morning, a huge fan. I have The Miracle Morning. I know Ricardo does. You know, he does this whole morning routine as well. Tell us a little bit more about the Miracle Equation.
Yeah. So the Miracle Morning, I wrote that and published it in 2012, and I'll get to the Miracle Equation, but tying them together here. So the Miracle Morning is a morning practice, and it is the majority of people that do it have admitted they were not morning people before, including myself, right? Like, it teaches you how can you beat that snooze button and become a morning person. The premise of it is the idea, though, that if you want to improve any area of your life or every area of your life, it starts with improving yourself. Right? It's you becoming the type of person that you need to be, with the skills, the qualities, the mindset, the habits, the knowledge to achieve everything that you want. And so the Miracle Morning is a daily practice for personal development, so that you start every day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, so that you go into your day as the best version of yourself, which then it reflects in every outcome in your life, your relationships, your happiness inside, your business, your results, your income. And when I created this morning ritual, it was 2008, when the economy had crashed and it was declining, and I was losing money, and I lost my house, and I was living on credit cards, and I was depressed. I created this morning ritual, and within 2 months of doing it, I more than doubled my income. I got in the best shape of my life, and my depression was gone. And I went to my wife. I said, sweetheart, this morning routine is like a miracle. She goes, it's your miracle morning. And I go, yeah, I love that. I love that. It's my miracle morning. So that's how that came to be. And again, it's this daily practice for personal development. Well, here's what I realized, that's only half the equation, so to speak, right? What I mean by that is, if you can be the most personally developed person in the world and do all the practices, you can meditate and journal and do visualization, but then you can let fear keep you from stepping out into a greater vision for yourself, right? And so when I fought cancer, I did the Miracle Morning every day, but I realized I needed something to create this tangible result in the outer world, achieve this goal of beating cancer. And so when I looked into my past, into my toolbox, so to speak, it was this miracle equation, these two decisions. And because I had so much fear of, dying and leaving my family, my kids without a dad, these two decisions, I started practicing them every single day. And and here's essentially the miracle equation is a practice for, or a process for goal achievement. So if the miracle morning is a practice for personal development, the miracle equation is the process for goal achievement. So that's how you take all that personal development that you're doing, all that knowledge you're gaining and those good feelings or whatever it is that you're generating during the morning. And then what do you do during the day to get over fear and to replace it with faith, and then to create a process that will ensure your success? Like for me, I had a process to beat cancer, right? It wasn't just chemo. I did every holistic practice on the planet. I was doing ozone sauna and acupuncture and taking 60 supplements a day and following a very specific diet routine. I was doing coffee enemas. Like there's no effort more extraordinary than coffee enemas, you guys. And so even though the miracle equation is something I created when I was in sales, it was to break sales records. And I realized the only thing that prevents us from achieving our goals is we lack faith that it's possible, or we give up the faith that it's possible along the way, or we don't have a system, a process in place, which is that extraordinary effort. And so if you give up the faith that a goal is possible, or you don't have the faith that it's possible, you're never going to put forth the effort that's required to achieve it. So if you can establish the faith and then clarify what extraordinary effort looks like for you and repeat those decisions every single day, just like when I walked again, just like when I beat cancer, just like selling 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning, right? Your success becomes inevitable. The only variable is timing. And so that's what the miracle, that's the short of the miracle equation, is it's these two decisions that the world's most successful people make every day over and over and over and over and over again. And it's those decisions that you can attribute to their success. That's what enables them to override that fear. And when they don't feel like it, when they don't feel like doing the things they need to, they've got that process defined that makes extraordinary effort, if you will, seem ordinary. And if you make those decisions every day, you can do anything.
What's the goal for the miracle equation? I know you had a goal for the Miracle Morning. How many lives do you want to impact with the miracle equation?
So it's kind of a 1-2, like they complement each other, you know? And so the Miracle Morning has sold 2 million copies. Miracle Equation has sold, I don't know, under 100,000. It's just a newer book. It came out this year, in the last year. So it's kind of just, they're both, you know, I just wanted to follow in the footsteps of its older brother, the Miracle Morning, I guess.
That's awesome. That's a good goal. That's a really good goal.
Hey, Leo, let's get to our last few questions here. To respect Hal's time as well.
Very cool. Very cool. How many? Okay, so I guess before one of the last things, or a couple of the last things, it's for somebody that's going in their journey right now and is looking for some inspiration. Obviously, they got to read your book, The Miracle Morning. They got to read your book, The Miracle Equation. Any other, recommendations? Any other advice that you would give them right now for somebody that's going through it? Especially with all the changes in the world, right? There's a lot of, especially with not just their own stuff, they're dealing with the exterior stuff of the media, right? So. Yeah.
I think the most important advice is to enjoy every moment. And I know that's easier said than done, but that's what the Miracle Morning helps me to do. Is a lot of mornings I wake up with a little anxiety, a little, depression, even because I'm a keynote speaker. I usually speak at events all over the world. Like, that's not happening. I've lost over half of my income again, right? And so for me, though, it's that same decision that I've decided I will be the happiest and the most grateful that I can possibly be in the midst of whatever the hell's going on in the world. It doesn't matter. And so for me, like this morning when I woke up, I meditated for 15 minutes, just feeling love and joy for being alive. I wrote in my journal what I was grateful for. I have affirmations, all my Miracle Morning practices, affirmations that remind me that I'm in control of one thing, and that's in here. We're in control of our inner world. And you think about it, what is your wheelchair right now, right? Like, I was going to be the happiest, most grateful person in a wheelchair. Well, what's your wheelchair? What's the thing that you are allowing to cause you to feel sad, angry, depressed, scared, and realize that you actually have a choice. You actually have a choice in how you feel based on what you focus on. And the purpose of life, in my opinion, is to experience love and joy in every possible moment. And it doesn't mean that we can't feel pain, right? But you can even feel pain in the midst of love and joy. You know, and so I think most of us think they're mutually exclusive. Like, I'm upset because of blank. No. Why don't you let blank, just let it be? It is what it is. Accept it, be at peace with it, and be happy because of blank, and be excited because of the other blank, right? Be joyful, you know? And so for me, I think that's it, is realize that every morning, start your day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. Tap into that place inside you that is just grateful to be alive. And from that place, go handle all the problems that you got.
Wow. Everything else is just the cherry on top.
That's it. That's it. You already won. You're alive. Like, you have everything that you need to be the most happy person you could ever be. And it's called life. You have life. That's it. Right.
You have the ability to experience it. Right. And, you know, some people unfortunately didn't wake up this morning. You know, they went to bed last night and they did not wake up this morning. So it's a privilege to experience this life. So, man, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you so much for your contribution. I acknowledge you for your courage and, you know, to share your story, because you are someone that's literally creating miracles for other individuals. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Ricardo, for the opportunity. Thank you, NAREP OC, for the opportunity. I definitely think that a ton of people are going to get immense value out of this. I'm going to go ahead and replay this thing every day because I love it. It's been an honor, man. Thank you so much for your time, bro.
Leo, Ricardo, thank you. And everybody that's watching, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time as well.
One last thing, because there's going to be a lot of people that have questions on what else. So I know you have your Facebook American Morning page, the huge community. I'm part of it. It's great content. Do you have a Twitter, podcast, stuff that you do that people could just get a lot more from you?
Yeah, probably the best play. You know, I would encourage my books. I think are a good place to start with the Miracle Morning Miracle Equation. But I do have a podcast. It's called Achieve Your Goals with Hal Elrod, and that's all. You know, I do a lot of solo episodes. It's about half and half interviews, half solo episodes. And so that is probably the best place to really, you know, go deep with me if you want to continue. And I'd be honored.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here, and the content's amazing. I took notes the whole time, and I mean, I'm a huge fan, and I'm still taking notes all the time and learning so much. Leo, thank you so much. You guys were amazing, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a